What is this two-tier policing? Is it really in existence, do you think?
Yeah, it absolutely is. We have a two-tier society, and I thought Phil Harris explained it extremely well in the way that he set it out. What he didn't mention, though, is that we have a regulatory and legislative framework which has put this in place. You know, the establishment of the requirement for institutions across the United Kingdom to provide some form of social justice is how it started under Tony Blair. And then they put belt, whistles and everything else on this idea of social justice, and what emerged from this was the Equalities Act and diversity, equity and inclusion, which is effectively giving protected status through the regulatory framework to minority ethnicities, minority religious beliefs. I know you talked about religion, minority sexual preferences, the whole gender ideology. And that's been placed in a protected status through our regulatory and legislative framework. And my business, for example, has to adhere to it. Every education establishment has to adhere to it.
But why?
Public services have to adhere to it.
I mean, I don't understand that. You can actually, I mean, some of these forms you have to fill in for jobs in companies, and you say all companies really have to adhere to this, is actually making this a very racist nation.
It's human rights legislation, which is meant to help the minority against the majority.
You're absolutely right. We didn't have a racist nation.
No.
But the imposition of these discriminatory behaviours, they call it progressive discrimination, but discrimination is discrimination. Absolutely. There's no other way to cut it.
Yep.
And if you're progressively discriminating in favour of someone, you're negatively discriminating in favour against someone else, aren't you?
Yep.
You can't have one without the other.
But then there's unofficial add-ons, aren't there? Because you get the police negotiating with community leaders to decide.
Absolutely.
But the white working class doesn't have any community
But the community
leaders.
The community leaders set themselves up.
Well, yeah, exactly.
They're not democratically elected, and nobody should listen to them. I wouldn't have any on the show.
Well, the law applies to the individual, not groups.
Absolutely. We shouldn't have multiple communities in this country. We should be one settled British culture.
Totally agree.